It's hit 10:30 and I want you to make sure that we really start promptly as possible. So I'm just going to launch into it, if that's all right. And as people are coming in, hopefully they can catch up with the amazing presentations and speakers we've got lined up. So first of all, welcome and good morning, and thank you for joining us at Bradford For Everyone Partner Forum. My name is Zara Niazi. I'm the program lead for Bradford For Everyone, and I'm actually delighted to be chairing this morning's webinar, as well as introducing our amazing group of panelists and speakers today. And of course, you must be thinking that too, and that's why you're here with us. So thank you for giving up your morning. We really, really do appreciate it. It's absolutely wonderful seeing more people joining us, and I hope that by the end of this morning that we'll have a really complete full house. So I'm going to keep going. So I've been famously dubbed by my team as Miss Chatterbox. Apparently, if I was going to be good at one thing, I'd be a chat host presenter. That's what I've been told. So I will do my best to keep you guys entertained and engaged throughout this morning. As you all might be aware, I mentioned at the start that it is National Inclusion Week, and in celebration of that, our speakers and topics have been designed to really celebrate Inclusion Week, make us really reflect and really think deeply. So I hope that you'll find that really interesting. Please don't forget to use the hashtag #EachOneReachOne and Bradford For Everyone on social media if you are tweeting today. That would be brilliant. So let me just tell you a little bit about the Partner Forum if this is something quite new to you. The Partner Forum is our 4th event, but these events are generally designed to share learning of our work, because if I say so myself, it's really fascinating, because it is about integration, it's about human connection, it's about the complexities of identities, it's about cohesion, it's about unity, it's about diversity, equality, and of course inclusion. And we hope that you'll find all of the stuff that we're doing really interesting too. The other things that we will be talking about in terms of our general Partner Forum events is that we use it to share some of the research we're involved with or are doing. And really some of the research there is to help with partners to design and deliver services, and also just to help people who live here. And that's really important to us because we love Bradford. We also wanted the Partner Forum to be this really collaborative space and increase partnership working. But due to COVID, of course, this is our first online event, so we're really keen to see how this goes. But as such, we can't do the physical networking, so please do use the chat function. I don't know whether I'm pointing to it, but some guys are already using the chat function, so you'll know where that is. And that's brilliant. Keep talking to us. And also, the idea behind the Partner Forum is to really stimulate ideas for our small grants panel, the Innovation Fund, which has now closed. But of course, you can also go on our website, which is www.bradfordforeveryone.co.uk if you want to find out when our next rounds are. So whilst people are joining us, we've getting a good number now. I'm going to do a quick poll just to see how many people really understand or are familiar with our work. So hopefully you will see this soon. And I'm going to allow the panelists to join as well. And so we've got the poll out now. And if you are unable to see the poll, the question really is, I am very well informed about the work of Bradford For Everyone, and there's some options that say strongly agree, to agree, neither agree or disagree, disagree or strongly disagree. And if you can't use the poll, please use the chat section just to tell us what you think. And just so it gives us a bit of indication of the type, who's in the room with us and how much they already know about our work. So far, the results are getting very interesting. I am really happy to say that most people do strongly agree and agree about our work. And so that really means that we're getting a lot of regulars back into the Partner Forum, which is brilliant to see. So I'm just going to give people a couple of more seconds to vote on this. Brilliant. Okay, another 5 seconds, and I'm going to end the poll. This is absolutely brilliant and really reassuring for me as well. So I'm just going to share the results very quickly. So you can see that most of you who are on today's webinar, that you feel that you strongly agree or agree about some of our work, but there's a couple of people in the room that don't know much about Bradford For Everyone, but we hope that today's speakers will give you a little bit more information. And of course, you can always go back to our website, which is www.bradfordforeveryone.co.uk to find out a little bit more. Brilliant. Okay, so just before I bring on the first panelist, I'm just going to remind you again, and especially for those people that have just joined us, to use the chat function below, okay? Please talk to us. My colleague, Kane Lewis, that's just there, will be responding to queries and comments. And you can also ask questions throughout the presentations and speakers using the same chat function. And we will try our best, but it might not be possible for us to answer every question. But between all of us, of course, we'll do our best. You can also send via the chat private messages to any of the panelists and speakers, and of course, talk to everyone else in the webinar, okay? So let's bring on our first speaker and panelist, which is Dr. Shala Khalid. I'm just going to ask, well, I'm just going to introduce you as a way of background first. So Shala is leading on our evaluation strategy for the programme. She's also building an evidence base for some of our projects. Now, Shala herself continues to impress me all the time. She is curious, she's inquisitive, she's extremely talented, and she asks all the tough questions, which I think is really important. She also wants to always deeply understand how services work and find out more about people. So over to you, Shala.
Thank you, Zara. That's a really, really lovely introduction. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody can see it. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. Zara has introduced me. I'm Shala Khalid. I'm the evaluation lead for our Bradford For Everyone program. Like Zara said, my role is to ensure that we collect effective evidence to show the impact of our projects. Bradford For Everyone is a test and learn program to see what is working and what is not working, not just in achieving integration and cohesion in Bradford, but also in terms of delivering and evaluating integration and cohesion interventions. So in today's short presentation, I would like to share with you some of the methods we are using to inform our learning of different aspects of our program. While test and learn is fundamental to our program, for us, it was also really important to establish how we will measure the impact of our projects, especially on people of the Bradford district. So I'll give you a brief overview of our impact measurement framework that we have developed. And we have recently launched our first year progress report, which is a snapshot of some of our first year achievements. I won't have time to go through the report page by page, but I will definitely make sure that I introduce this report and provide some context on how we have presented some of our early data-driven evidence. I would also like to share at the end some of our experiences of evaluation and impact measurement design process learning. So Bradford For Everyone is a test and learn program, and it's planned to be delivered in 2 years. And we have more than 40 projects, activities, and campaigns which are aiming to achieve multiple outcomes of integration and cohesion in the whole district. Excuse me. For us, test and learn means testing different aspects of the program, continuously learning and then improving our project delivery as we move forward with this program. We are using different methods. On the left-hand side, you can see how these different methods are informing our learning. So we are using monitoring and evaluation plans we have developed for our projects, where we are not just putting in place a systematic plan to evaluate our projects, but also conduct a rapid evaluation to ensure we have a system in place to collect evidence on ongoing basis to improve on our project delivery. We work with each project delivery partner to design evaluations, excuse me, which are both process and outcomes evaluations, and we're using methods which are very specific and relevant to those projects. And we work with our project providers to understand what they want to achieve from their projects and how we can help them to achieve that by using the methods which are easy for them to collect the data on. with. So we are conducting research as well to give more evidence base depth to our learning of different integration outcomes. Project management activity is also a strong element of our program, which is not just about supporting our project providers on an ongoing basis, but also guiding them, encouraging them, and helping them in collecting information about different challenges, good practices, and the risks associated to the project's delivery. Our delivery partner subgroup meetings are also something which we conduct on a regular basis. We encourage our delivery partners to get involved in conversations during these meetings to share their own experiences of project delivery. Either it's related to recruitment of participants or retention of individuals or any external challenges our projects are facing together, such as COVID and lockdown. We have a large number of stakeholders, if you look on the right-hand side of this diagram, and we are using different platforms to disseminate our learning. We have our website, our social media, we do reporting on a regular basis, and a platform like this one, our partner forum. We know through social, psychological, and behavioral research that any adversity or crisis changes people's views, perception about other people, authorities, and organizations. To understand how COVID is having an impact on cohesion, on people's perception about other people, authorities, and different organizations, we are taking part in a national research study, which is being conducted in partnership with Belong, the Integration and Cohesion Network, and the University of Kent. And the aim is to study, to collect longitudinal data to see how cohesion is changing, not just in Bradford, but across the Britain as well. And we will be sharing this research findings soon, hopefully by the end of this year or next year in January, when this research finish. So while the concept of integration is being used, we know in different range of a diverse range of policies and programs nationally and internationally, there is yet no single universally shared understanding of what integration means and how it is measured. So in order to define integration within Bradford's local context, we consulted with communities across the Bradford district in 2018 to understand what good integration looks like for communities. Based on the views of people and our data pack, we developed our strategic outcomes as our 4 key priorities areas, as our 4 pillars: getting on, getting along, getting involved, and feeling safe. Now, in order to facilitate our impact measurement of our projects, we expanded these 4 strategic outcomes, these 4 pillars, into 8 impact areas, where we identified outcomes and indicators which were directly relevant to the projects being delivered on the ground. So getting on is about more people will have improved their quality of life, feel happier about the future, be able to fully participate and be better equipped to engage in the economy. We further expanded this strategic outcome into English language, employment, and workforce diversity. We have a set of projects running within each area, delivering outcomes. These areas have operational outcomes, as the aim is to have a set of participant-related outcomes that could be directly measured straight after the delivery of these projects. Then getting along is about people will have increased understanding and respect for other people's views, cultures, and they will have developed increased sense of community and belonging. And we have social networks and relationships and neighborhood and community 2 areas, impact areas. We have divided our projects in. The next one is getting involved is more people from all backgrounds will connect with others, participate in civic life and get involved in their communities. And we are measuring our projects on that. And then feeling safe, the last one is about how people feel, if people feel satisfied with their neighborhood and feel safer across the district. So these are the outcomes we want to achieve. And in feeling safe, we are measuring perception of trust and safety about other people and other communities. Now, as part of this framework, we have established a set of indicators that we show that if each project is achieving those outputs and outcomes. So just to give you an example, with our employment area, we have a set of indicators which are both output and outcomes indicators. For example, we want to understand the number of people who are being recruited and their profile as well, to see if our projects are reaching out to diverse communities. And those people who are being recruited, how many of those are being completing the courses, the projects. And of course, the aim is to find out the number of people going into employment. But it's also really important to indicate here is the outcome indicator is very specific to our projects, because the number of people who are reporting increased confidence in applying for jobs. Because the projects we have started within this area, outcome is for people who were further away from the labor market. They were economically inactive and with the aim to go into employment at some point. And increasing in their confidence indicate that these individuals will more likely to apply for jobs in the future. Now, in our first year completed in March this year, just before COVID and lockdown started. Within the first year, most of our projects were just getting off the ground. Some were in the early stages of delivery, and just a couple were in their final stages of delivery. So while there was not much to report on outcomes, but we try to present outputs within this report. So our first year progress report is a snapshot of those outputs, and it gives you a flavor of what we are measuring within our impact areas in terms of outputs, which are related to three main areas: reach, in terms of if we are reaching to show that we are reaching to a diverse communities, and how many people are completing, and if people are satisfied while attending these, taking part in these projects. I've given a link here, as I'm not going to go into detail and go through each page by page, but we can go, you can go on our website, www.bradfordforeveryone.co.uk, and download this report and enjoy reading it. But just to give you a very brief overview, a glimpse of what's inside the report. So we've got page 7, you can see employment, because I'm giving an example of employment area, impact area. So the way we presented it, there were 2 projects running and just about to complete within this impact area, graduate to work project and sector-based academy. So collectively, we had 269 people started these projects, and those people who started, 73% of those people completed those projects, and 27% of those people who completed actually went into job. Now, the number 27 might seem a little bit low, might not be that high, but what we can tell you with more data after March, when we received more data, more than 95% people actually said they increased in confidence in terms of applying for jobs. And that was a big achievement for these projects. A little bit more a glimpse of our project different pages, and I would encourage everybody to go on our website and download and read this report. Now, at the end, I would like to share some of our experiences in terms of when we worked in terms of designing our evaluation and impact measurement processes. So by working with different project providers across different areas, we have learned that evaluation or any impact measurement plan should be fully embedded into project design. This sounds very obvious, that yes, but it's hugely important to think how project activities are directly linked with outputs and outcomes, and that should be done at the start of the project. So the aim is to show that the impact of your work, any evaluation of impact measurement should not be an afterthought or a nice to have activity, but it should be a fully planned phenomenon. which should have allocated resources in terms of time, people, and systems to collect and present evidence in a meaningful way. So in order to make the process easy for the small organizations where the resources might be limited to conduct effective evaluations, it was important to be pragmatic and embed evidence collection processes as much as possible into project's routine delivery. So just, for example, a simple way is we suggested was when registration, to use registration form with all the data which needed to be collected to build profile of participants. To collect that at the beginning and make sure it's complete, it's got all the information, and make sure participants are informed how and why their data need to be collected and how it will be used. And then also conducting regular feedback sessions with the participants at the end of session delivery to understand how they're thinking, what their experiences have been by taking part, and what they're expecting, what they have achieved during that session. So it's ongoing basis. You learn from your participants and how and their experiences. There is definitely a need to change the mindset of individuals. We've realized that the mindset needs to be changed of individuals and organizations to develop evaluative thinking in project design and delivery. So they can think how they can show what they're doing and how they can build evidence base of everything they are delivering in terms of improving outcomes for people in the district. So focus on what is important to measure that show the impact of your project should be high when we design any project for integration and cohesion, and indicators should be wider, but also very much specific to the projects as well, so we can show the impact of our projects, the behavior change or perception change of people that can be measured straight after the project delivery. We encourage to use co-design evaluation methods with our participants, so to learn from them what can be helpful or how can the impact of their projects can be measured. The most important aspect is, of course, the quality of data. This is really, really important. Either we want to build effective evidence to show the impact, to evaluate our projects, and or to show our learning. So we define data quality for different programs, for different projects differently. So for our project, we define data quality in terms of having a set of minimum data set items which we shared with our projects and encourage them to collect that information so we can build a picture of what's going on, which participants are taking part in these projects. So that, but there could be another issues with data quality as well. It could be inaccurate. So defining what accurate data will look like and making sure data is consistent, which is provided by each project. And this is where our projects need support from our team, and need to make sure they have all the information, templates, and minimum data set requirements available so they can report on the data which we require for our evaluation, and which is also helpful for their in-house evaluations as well. So that's from me. If you want to contact me, my email address is here, shella.khalid@bradford.gov.uk, and underneath is my Twitter handle. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'll put my video on just to say thank you to everybody, and please comment in the comment box if you think your learning is the same, or if there is something different, you're experiencing something different. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Shella. So I'm just looking at the chat. It looks like we don't have many questions there. But of course, the presentations will be available after the webinar. And also we are recording the event, so this will also be available if you feel that this will be really useful to you. Thank you, Shella, for that really interesting presentation. We're going to move on to our second panelist and speaker, which is Neena Punnu. Neena is our lead for our Ambassador project, alongside the fact that she manages many other projects within our portfolio. And her specialism really is around community, new technology and culture. Now, the reason why she's been given this is because she's full of optimism. She's got huge amounts of energy, absolutely tons. Sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, but I think most importantly, she really deeply cares about people and doing what is right. So I'm going to pass on to Neena, who's going to be talking about communities as partners, and hopefully this will bring some of the work that we're doing to life.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming today. I'm going to start off by trying to screen share my presentation. So if you just stay with me one moment. So I'm hoping everybody could see this. Okay, so I'm Neena Punnu, one of the project support officers, and my session with you guys is about communities as partners. To just set the scene, I just wanted to let you know, we asked our followers on social media, what topics do you think we should have at our next partner forum? And interesting enough, communities as partners was one of the highest scoring topics that you wanted us to talk about. So here we are. So we've asked you, what is it that you want us to do? And we're here and we're delivering that. So in my presentation, we will briefly touch on why work with communities, how we are working with communities, and along the presentation, I'll share with you some insights and learnings that we've managed to gain. So I'm starting off with someone famous, Mr. Obama. So what he says is the best education he's received was working with people in the community at grassroots levels. What he's learned is by working with ordinary people, together we could create extraordinary things. So I just wanted to say that I've used this because I think it's quite important to believe that people all around the world who are, quite, who know this stuff, know that actually it's, we can together, working with each other, we're stronger together, and together we can create extraordinary things. So absolutely, we share the same sentiment. So my next slide is about if we want to, how do we get things right? What do we believe in? How do we do it? We're aware that there's a lot of good practices where people around the world, locally, nationally, they all have brilliant ways of working, involving communities. But the kind of culture that we're creating in the program and the work that we're doing is that we believe that we need to put the very people we serve at the center of everything we do. We need to enable them to take control of their own lives, and we need to empower them to work with us to resolve any issues that they may have and stand up for others who can't. So having this kind of mindset will enable people to be their own best advocates. That's what we believe, that's what we want to achieve. This gives them the strength, the skills, and the knowledge to take complete control of their own lives and achieve what they really want. So when we were given our funding to address integration, right from the very start, we went to our local people and asked them, how do you think we can do this? What is it that you think we need to do to improve integration in our place? We then together, working with local people, we came up with our vision, and I'm hoping that most of you know what this is. And it's all about where people feel that they belong, that they're understood, they feel safe, and are able to fully participate in the opportunities the district offers. To work towards our vision, we needed the continuous connection and input from local people, so we created our Ambassador program, our project, and this is where we've opened up 27 places for local people to come and join us and join us with the work that we're doing. We've selected 5 people from each of the constituencies that we have, and we've also have 2 young representatives. We really believe it's really, really important to hear the voices of young people, because Bradford City is one of the youngest cities in the country. And just to also make it clear that each ambassador represents themselves as individuals, and for those who might be in the same situation as them. For example, one of our ambassadors has a visual impairment, and so she's a voice for herself. She's representing herself. She's also being the voice for other people who may have a similar disability to her. All of our ambassadors come from different backgrounds with different experiences, all profound, and each and every one of them are just amazing people. But what they're doing is they're giving us the depth of knowledge and understanding that we need to drive our work. And the tenets that we kind of like use, to empower them and to get them involved is that we want to give them a voice, we want to give them choice, and we want to give them power. So where do they fit in within our structure? It's all about inclusion. We designed our program with this at the forefront. From the outset, we wanted to equalize the balance and the power. So our ambassadors are part of our governance and our subgroup. Out of the 27 ambassadors we have, 5 ambassadors and 2 young people have a equal seat on our partnership board. So they feed in and sit on the partnership board as equal members of anybody else on that board. We've also, our network is also growing, and we're really pleased about this because we've had an organic growth with this. About 120 people have signed up, and these are just other local residents who want to be involved in our work and promote our campaigns and work with us. So this is slowly but surely growing as well, which we're really happy about. Information about how to become an ambassador and also to join our network is available on our website. So moving on to the next one, level of participation. We believe working in partnership with our community is one of the key ingredients needed to design and deliver the best services. On this ladder, there's there's different levels, and we aspire to be right on the top of the ladder where it's citizen power. We want to work in partnership with local people. We want to make decisions jointly, and we want to co-design. So co-create, co-design, co-produce. Shella mentioned this briefly in her presentation as well. Well, these are the current buzzwords used in recent times. For those of you who might not know what this is, it's when organizations and local people come together to design and deliver and ultimately improve services and outcomes for everybody else. An example I could share of what we've done is with our shared values work. So these, all the work that we do is grounded in community voice and influence. So our new shared values have evolved from ground up. After a year long of co-designing and co-producing these, we are hoping to launch them this week as in celebration of Inclusion Week. So follow us on social media, and you will soon hear what have we achieved by working with local people to produce the shared values that we have. And also, what we feel that best practice is where we say that you said this, and this is local people, and together we did this. So this is all about how the kind of mindset that we have, that this is the way we want to work. So our ambassadors are playing valuable roles. These are all the different types of activities they have been getting involved in. Just to give you some more detail on this, from May 2019, when our ambassadors program kick-started, to March 2020, our ambassadors took part in 220 decision-making, consultation, and training activities. So that's, in that really short period when we were still learning about how we're doing things, we've already achieved so much. And since then to now, we've come really far as well. Our ambassadors also get involved in other agendas. For example, feeding back on the poverty strategy. Recently, they've had input into the new cultural strategy, which is being put together, and how the surveys should look like. Some of our members will be joining Give Bradford, which is an organisation that gives grants to community projects. And hopefully some of our ambassadors will also be joining the movement of the People's Powerhouse, which is a movement to improve lives for people up in the north. So these are just a few examples, but there's a lot that we've been doing. In our new COVID life, we have had to adapt. We must adapt, we feel that, and we think that we've done pretty good with this. That human connection is really, really important, and we think that we've kept that going, regardless of not being able to meet socially. So, we have gone online. We have got a WhatsApp group, and also, I personally feel that we're meeting more, we're talking more since we've gone virtual, which is another win that we've had, which is really good. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about participatory budgeting. So when we're talking about involving local people in our work and what we're doing, not sure if most of you know, but participatory budgeting is where power is passed to local people about decision making where funding should be spent. It started back in Brazil in 1989, and it was all about improving services, infrastructure, and increasing citizen participation. So it's being used in America and in other parts of the world. So we're quite proud that we brought this here. And since we've had 3 innovation fund rounds, again briefly mentioned by Zara at the beginning and Shella as well, where we have a project of organizations, grassroots organizations, they come forward and they tell us about the ideas. And instead of a few of us sitting around the table thinking, oh yeah, we think that's a good project, we've actually passed that power on to our local people, our network members, our ambassadors, to decide which projects they think are good, which they think are needed, and then they vote according to that. And that's how we've used that process. So another approach that we're quite proud of. So now I'm going to just use a really simple analogy with you. It's just that I think that just to talk through what we're doing and just give you a few of our learnings and insights through this. So, okay, we are all going on a journey together. This is what it is. We're on a movement and we're on a journey. Okay, our destination is ultimately our vision. What are we trying to achieve? Okay, so but with the destination, I will say that our people need to understand, whoever's on this journey with us, what is our purpose. So I think that's really important that you get that, everybody understands what the vision is. Also, the backing from the top is really important, so top down. So the people on the top who really need to believe in it and create that culture that actually we do want to work with people in our communities. They are important and they are equal partners, and we need to do things together. So that's all a little bit about the destination and where we're going. The driver is someone who's really important. It could be a person or it could be a team. So this is where we need a solid infrastructure, a person or a team that drives a coordinated approach on how this partnership should function. Also, the people who are driving this work have to have that passion and that commitment to really believe in the cause. They have to really believe that, every local person is important and we want to work with them. If you don't have that, people will get disengaged and it won't work. So that's really, really important. So, it's having things like terms of reference, people understand what they need to do, and then the driver makes sure that happens. Another learning that we've had is that it's really important to avoid hierarchies. Everyone is as important as each other. So if you've got professionals around the table and you've got someone who's retired, who's got life experience, but then you've got a 16 or a 17-year-old, every single person is as important as each other. So that's really, really vital. So now passengers, okay, a journey is always so much fun when you have passengers, and that's our people. That's all the people that we want around the table and who we want to work with. This is everything to do with equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, and fairness. So depending on what kind of work you're doing is really important. So our program is all about Bradford for Everyone. So it's about everybody. So we want people who have disabilities. We want people who live in poverty. We want people who have a privileged life. People from all sorts of backgrounds to be involved in our work. Because everybody, whatever they have something to say, it could make a massive difference to how we design and deliver our services. So the passengers are really, really vital to think about, are we being inclusive? Are we including everybody? So in this bit, I think it's really important that, we will have obstacles and barriers. And I think we need to, when you're working with people, you need to address these. And, you need to see that if people are starting to disengage, what is the reason? So that's really, really important. And the one that I really believe in is investing and fostering in relationships is key. So, that trust needs to be built, those friendships need to be built. And then if people believe in what you're doing, they will come along with you all the way to the end of that journey. So that's really, really important. Last but not least is money, fuel. So when you are running a program, or you're doing, or you're working with local people, you do need to make a little bit of an investment. So the drivers who are driving the work, you need to pay their salaries, you need to pay back travel expenses, you need to pay for accessible information and doing things that in a way that are accessible to everybody. So you need to be mindful about the fact that if we are going to go down this route, you will need resources, you will need time, and you need to budget for that. So I hope that kind of like gives you a bit of an idea of what we're trying to say when we're saying that we're on a journey, and just think of it as a car. And if you want this car to move towards your journey, your vision, this is what you need to be doing. Okay, insights and learnings. Okay, so we've had a lot, and in 15 minutes there's not much I could say, but there's lots of different ways of engaging people. For example, consultations, workshops, focus groups. But what we're trying to do is we're really trying to use that design thinking approach, where we get creative with ways of how we're going to be doing things. An example that I could give you is when we were creating our shared values. The challenge we got from lots of people was that, yes, the same old people will tell you what they think. Yes, everybody does not have access to the internet, and they will not be able to go online. How are we going to reach those seldom heard voices? So that was our challenge. So what we thought about this, we planned it, and we said, okay, you know what, we're going to have street stalls, we're going to have pop-up events, we're going to turn up in places like Buttershaw and Homewood and Burlington, and we're just going to turn up at supermarkets, and we're going to turn up in the Keith train station, for example, and we're going to speak to people who may not have any idea about what we do. So that's just giving you an example. It's really thinking about how do we address the challenges that we face. Strength-based working is another example I really want to share with you. When you're working with people, there are assets, okay, and some of them have brilliant strengths, some of them may need a bit of support and encouragement. We have invited all our ambassadors to help us decide about commissioning, where we should allocate money for projects, and we've got some really experienced ambassadors who have done that work in their lifetime. So when we were going through this process, what we learned was these ambassadors were really good to kind of like help us with this, but also what they did was they were helping those who had no experience whatsoever to kind of like understand this is how it works, this is what you need to do. So they gave them that nurturing and that training. So again, it's like really looking at your strengths and how you can use them. And my last one is we think that we're doing okay. So I'm not saying that we've nailed it, and we will never say that. We're always learning, we're reflecting, adapting, evolving, and that is the key thing. I think everybody needs to understand that you will never get it all right. So you have to be able to kind of like evolve. COVID-19 is a prime example. We saw firsthand how digitally excluded people are and how some people are socially isolated. We saw it with our own ambassadors. It was happening, lots of barriers for engagement. And it's how do you deal with that? Some of our ambassadors didn't have a mobile phone, for example. So we got in touch with their parents. Other ambassadors didn't have the technology. So how did we help them overcome that? So it's really talking with each other, building those relationships, and trying to overcome those barriers to see how we could do that. So these are just a few examples of some of the learnings and insights we've had. And I just want to finish my presentation on a few comments that some of our ambassadors made. So we asked them, why do they think this partnership is really important? And then you could see on the screen that some of the comments some of them have made. But just to say, like one person said, my voice has helped shape how things should happen. Another ambassador has said that we've given them the tools on how to apply things to make, so they could go ahead and use their tools to improve things and what matters to them. And another ambassador says that my input helps make a difference to others. So to finish my presentation, the now and the future is collaboration. We believe communities as partners is key to getting things right. So if you want to achieve extraordinary things, you want to get things right, it's absolutely imperative that we work with local people, we work with them. Okay, thank you. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to come back to stop sharing. And I'm going to put my camera back on. Okay, I'm back on. So, yes, so I'm absolutely passionate about the work that we're doing, and so is all of our team. We are constantly learning, and if you want to know more about our work and you want to know more about the challenges we've been facing and some of the wins we've had, happy to have a separate conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neena. That was really insightful, and I hope it brought to life some of the work that we are doing in work partnership with communities. Okay, so what I wanted to do now is give you guys an opportunity, and please, I'll just mention this again. We will take a quick 5-minute break, just so everybody, and we've got 65 plus people on this webinar, so give you a chance to stretch your legs, grab a cup of coffee, give your eyes a little bit of a rest, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. But in the meantime, if you still want to talk in the chat, please do, because we're using that as a way just to have the conversation and keep going. So we'll be back in 5. Just give us a couple of minutes, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Hello, welcome back. I hope you're all feeling very refreshed now with your cup of coffee, maybe perhaps a little walk around your room. Just to say, I'm absolutely loving all the comments that are coming through, because it's really reassuring to our panelists and our speakers that we're saying the kind of right things you want to hear. So I'm really, really glad that that you're continuing to use the chat. Please keep doing that, because that just gives a little bit more reassurance that we've got you engaged, you're listening, and we're having a conversation. So I'm really proud now just to introduce our next and our third panelist and speaker, which is Barry Cusack. Barry is the lead for the Intercultural Cities programme, alongside with Neena managing a portfolio of projects as well in the programme, specifically around young people, housing and environment. Now, one of the things I would say about Barry is Barry's extremely thoughtful and reflective, and I think one of the things that we all can say as a team is that he really brings calmness to what sometimes feels like chaos. So Barry, I'm going to pass over to you.
Thanks, Zara. Hi, everyone. I shall just share my screen. Okay, so Bradford and Intercultural District is what I'm here to talk about, and I will try to fit that in by going a little faster. So what is interculturalism? Many of you will already know, some won't, but there are different ways in which we try to help societies to get along. Assimilation is one where new and minority groups are expected to become more and more like the majority group. Multiculturalism was seen as where you accept different groups, they're living together, but not necessarily, criticisms of it are that they're not necessarily interacting enough, and that multiculturalism has allowed segregation, and that segregation in turn leads to lack of understanding, it leads to misunderstandings, it leads to fear, division, and those kind of things that make societies less positive places to be in. Interculturalism came out of the criticism of multiculturalism and looks instead, as the diagram shows here, to proactively encourage social mixing and contact between people in a meaningful way, so that we can have diversity in our societies that is a positive thing and a strength, as opposed to being seen as a challenge. So Intercultural Cities is a programme led by the Council of Europe, which Bradford joined a couple of years ago. It's based upon the intercultural policy model, which I've just outlined a little, and talks about the value of all identities in a society and how that can actually be a competitive advantage. It's about best practice sharing between over 130 cities around the world. 8 of those are in the UK. And it's also about how we can kind of align our policies and the things that we do as local authorities, but also beyond that as other organisations out in the VCS sector, as businesses and as individuals, to try and become more intercultural, so that we're fully integrating with each other, understanding each other, identifying shared commonalities, shared challenges and shared goals. Bradford joined to demonstrate our commitment to viewing and portraying diversity as a strength, to further embed interculturalism into our own policies and strategies in the local authority, to help us reflect really honestly about where we're at in terms of our efforts to bring people together and to value diversity, to share our existing great work around the world and around the UK, but also to learn from other places around the world who are facing similar challenges or problems, to learn from and innovate based upon this best practice from around the world. Intercultural cities regard diversity positively. They actively combat discrimination. They have strategies and tools in place to deal with diversity and cultural conflict and enhance participation in civic life. And they encourage deliberately greater mixing and interaction between diverse groups in public spaces as well as in civil society. Key values of intercultural cities are equality, diversity and interaction. Equality involving non-discrimination, in workplaces, in wider society, and using our powers, whether that's commissioning or political influence or strategic influence, to help to ensure that everybody is viewing equality as an important thing and also acting on that. Diversity involving a commitment by the city to recognise and preserve diversity as an intrinsic feature of human communities, and that is actually an advantage if used properly. An interaction which is about deliberately creating conditions for positive and constructive encounters across all types of backgrounds, whether that's sexual identities, economic status, disabilities, genders, anything. Part of being an intercultural city is to assess where you're at. And to do this, the Intercultural Cities programme gives you a large questionnaire to answer questions on around all sorts of areas of life in your district, as well as the policies and things you will have in place and that other organisations are doing to try and be intercultural and to value people and to make society function in a mixed and not segregated way. The results of this are indicative, but they're very useful because where there's a gap for any city, it means that intercultural cities can make recommendations of good practice from elsewhere to help you to improve in that area. Bradford ranked 4th amongst the cities it was compared with for in places where there are over 20% of foreign-born national residents, and 6th amongst cities with a population over 500,000 inhabitants. When you do the index, you're given results in different formats, but they try to help you to see it very visually where you may be lacking things and also where your strengths are, which helps us to reflect honestly on what we need to do to improve as a district. After that, we had an experts visit from people from around the world who are experts in interculturalism to come and actually talk to real people, projects, council staff, to try and put meat on the bones of that index. We also hosted the first ever UK network, and we'll be participating in those in the future, which is all about learning from each other and from experts from around the world. We look to disseminate intercultural ideas and practice within our organisation as part of the council, but also beyond to encourage others to help us to achieve a fully intercultural district. Some of this is about promoting interculturalism, and it's about reflecting ourselves constantly on what we're doing and whether it's enough in different regards. And some of the things, just an example of things that we've been involved in. Our programme itself is a massive programme of projects and initiatives, all of which contribute to making Bradford a more intercultural place, where the social mixing happens, where we identify commonalities, shared goals, challenges, interests, and shared pride. And we thoroughly evaluate everything that we do so that we can share what works and what doesn't work. Recent examples is looking at anti-rumour and critical thinking strategy and associated campaigns, which we're working on, using sharing our work and learning from others around how we engage with and support all communities during COVID-19, and commissioning organisations to create and deliver bespoke critical thinking training across all demographics and different geographical areas as well. As Neena mentioned earlier, we've with communities developed a groundbreaking shared values for the district campaign, which we'll be launching soon. We're looking at future discrimination as well as what already exists through engaging with the ICC on artificial intelligence and how human involvement at the early stages of automated decision making can later down the line impact upon people not receiving fair treatment dependent on their postcode or their ethnicity or whatever characteristic it may be. We've contributed to the first ever Committee on Anti-Discrimination and Diversity and Inclusion at the Council of Europe. So we are being influenced by other countries and by the Council of Europe, but we're also helping them to work at a higher level where they will work with governments to talk about intercultural approaches that can be pushed down from the highest level of all. So it's a real two-way process, bringing the highest levels of government down to grassroots people here in Bradford. We contribute to research and development, most recently an interfaith toolkit, COVID-19, shared values, and on inclusive employment. We're participating in discussions around the prevention of gentrification. That's where people are pushed out of certain areas of cities because they are too poor to stay there, which we see a lot in London, more so than here. Involved in a Creating Inclusive Cities webinar, which led to the establishment of a LGBT migrants partnership here, which has just got off the ground. Excuse me. We've had the emergency planning team trained in migrant and risk management, participated in local international campaigns, one example being the Lord Mayor speaking about refugees being welcome here during World Refugee Day. Just a quote there, intercultural cities, that the successful cities of the future will be those best able to harness the talent and energy of their diverse citizens. There are obvious benefits to employees of diversity, and I'm sure our colleagues at Grant Thornton will talk more about this kind of thing in their presentation shortly. And statistically, evidence that diversity, if harnessed properly, is an advantage, even economically, to businesses. So as we look towards becoming a fully intercultural district rather than a multicultural one, what we really need is for everyone to play their part in this. And most of you will be involved in things that are helping with this already. But it's just as we reflect, encouraging everyone to reflect on whether there's more that we can do to help our society become more intercultural, to help people get on better, to be less segregated, to mix in employment because the employment's diverse and everyone's included. So these are just some questions really for all of us to ask ourselves as to whether there are things we can do to further this, and also whether you already have good practice that might be worth sharing with us and then with Intercultural Cities and the Belong Network in the UK, so that other people can benefit from the good work that is already happening in Bradford, because Bradford is actually very good at this. That isn't to say there aren't problems, but it is to say that in most regards we are trying things and have been doing for a long time and have a lot of experience in integration and social cohesion. Interculturalism is about envisioning the world as we want it to be, rather than being determined by our past separate histories. That's Ted Cantle, just to finish. I'd welcome any contact from anyone who has any questions or suggestions or wants to get involved in any way. My email's there. You can find out more about interculturalism on the Intercultural Cities website, more about our programme at bradfordforeveryone.co.uk. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barry. Another brilliant presentation. Again, just looking at the comments, thank you so much for the feedback and just sharing your own good practice, I guess, as well in terms of what you're doing within your own organisations. Thank you so much. We'll plough ahead just to the last presentation now. So I'm going to introduce one of our delivery partners. So we've got Katie and Anna from Grant Thornton. Now, I just want to do a little bit of an introduction to this, because Bradford has probably one of the lowest social mobility in the country with high levels of deprivation. It wasn't enough for us within the programme just to look at equipping and skilling particular groups up who needed the most help from us. We need to really push ourselves a little bit more harder and recognise that there are also structural, systemic and even discrimination and racism. That means some of the very people that we want to support and help will find it that much harder to access opportunities and become economically secure. Okay, so Grant Thornton are basically leading on the Inclusive Employers project for us, and I'm happy and really proud to introduce Katie and Anna.
Thank you, Zara. Hello, everyone. Lovely to see so many on the call today. I shall just share my screen so that you can see the presentation. Get technology working. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Really great to be here. And as Zara said, we've been working on the Inclusive Employers Project, which if you think back to kind of Shella's presentation, was talking about the different pillars, and this sits within the kind of getting on. So very much looking at the opportunities for everyone to kind of get sustainable employment. And that was something that was really key. And a big part of this is that social mobility piece. So what my colleague Anna and I want to talk to you about today is a little bit about that project, but also kind of the history, I suppose, how we got to work with Bradford Council and also with Yorkshire Building Society as well on this project, just so that you can understand kind of where we've come from, what we've been doing as Grant Thornton, but also kind of how that's kind of brought our approach to then helping clients. So if you've never heard of Grant Thornton, we are basically, it's a large global organisation with over 50,000 employees in 135 countries. But the UK part of the business, which Anna and I work for, we've got about 4,500 people with 190 partners. And we focus on independent assurance, tax and advisory services. So we sit within professional services. So it's just so you can get an idea about which sector we work in. So Anna and I work in our advisory partnership part of the business, and we obviously support clients in this. My particular background has been in industry for the last 20 years, and we've been focused on emerging talent and in the D&I space as well. So I'm very much passionate about this particular topic, and encouraging kind of emerging talent coming in and providing opportunities for people. I guess a bit of background into kind of our story in terms of Grant Thornton, and where I guess our approach to kind of share the best practice with clients has come from. So around 2014, we had a really kind of strong leader with a vision, and that was really important because that drove forward the activity and encouragement around truly kind of looking at systemic inclusion within organisations. So we've got a bit of a journey on here. I won't go through everything just because we could be here a while, but just to pick out a few things that I think are quite key for kind of our journey. Was very much kind of being an influencer in our sector, making sure that we had board sponsorship. So again, very much kind of that sponsorship from the top to enable us to kind of have those conversations, make change as we went along. Now we didn't have all the answers, and we still don't kind of propose that we do have all the answers. And so it was really important for us to partner with organisations such as the Bridge Group, who focus on social mobility, but also be partnering with Social Mobility Commission and various other parties who have got focus on diversity and inclusion, but particularly in that social mobility piece, because if we can encourage that and we can start to think about what individuals need, we can start to create an inclusive culture. So we did a number of things to kind of help, and we focused on recruitment in terms of attraction. So we decided to change some of our approach to that, which was taking out the qualification criteria, particularly for emerging talent. And actually, we've seen over the years that by doing so, we've been able to see that individuals who maybe wouldn't have got through our process in the first instance are actually performing just as well or even better than those that maybe would have come out of a top university with a 2-1 or a first. So we've got proven evidence that our practices are working. So we've really started to kind of move through that. So where we've started to kind of pilot those things, we've started to then develop that out much further in terms of our practices, and we've really started to work in the sector, providing and sharing what we're doing, and hence we were able to start building this model in early 2019 that starts to look at inclusion maturity. So as we were building that, we're still going on our own journey as well. We've started to kind of have lots of conversations internally. We've got a huge network of individuals within different groups, kind of representing all the different people that we have in our organisation. We introduced reverse mentoring, so all of our leaders have access to to an individual from a different background, and they meet regularly to kind of have conversations. It supports the understanding, it supports the kind of raising the profile of all of our diverse workforce, and that's been really, really powerful. And that's been kind of the benefit from both the leader's perspective, but also those individuals that are part of that. Another key thing is we're starting to kind of come through 2019 and 2020, and a lot of the conversations that we've been having with our clients, and certainly when we've been talking to others around what we're doing, is this whole concept of intersectionality. And as Anna talks about our model and our approach, we talk about characteristic focus, and what we want to think about is that we aren't just one characteristic. We are an amalgamation of many things, and in order to allow people to come to work and bring their whole self to work, we need to appreciate all of the different things that we are as unique beings. So we're very much focusing on that kind of that interrelationship with the different characteristics that we have. And I guess the last thing that's kind of run through the whole of this, and we've been developing much more, is the data piece. It's been very important for us to make inclusive decisions, but we need to have the data and an understanding of where we are and where we want to get to in the future. So data has been huge on our kind of agenda, and again, Anna will talk about how that fits within our model. Before I kind of hand over to Anna to talk about more about the project that we've been doing with the Bradford For Everyone team and the council and Yorkshire Building Society, it was just really nice. Barry was talking about the ICC, and recently this project has been recognised as best practice. So we're really proud of that, and we're really proud of the work that we've been doing with Zara and the team over the past year, and will continue to do. And we'll be doing the webinar later, which hopefully some of you will be joining us on, and we'll talk more about that as well. But hopefully that gives you an idea about where we are as an organisation. And what I would say is that we are still on this journey. We've got some things to do. We want to move to a really systemic kind of approach so that everyone feels included. So we continue that work, and we definitely say that don't feel like we are that no one can start the journey. There's all sorts of things you can do, but what we want to do is make sure that we're sharing that best practice. So if you want to reach out and kind of have a conversation with us separately after this, ask any questions in the chat, please do. But I'll pass over to Anna, and Anna's going to just pick up on our kind of approach and the project itself.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Katie. So as Katie referenced, she's kind of walked you through our journey as Grant Thornton. So now I'd like to talk to you a bit more about our approach to helping organisations with inclusion and our model. So over the past year, we've been working with Bradford For Everyone, Bradford Council and Yorkshire Building Society, which has been an absolute pleasure. And this is the approach we have been using with them. So I'll just start off by referencing, so our approach is really data driven. So on this slide I've just referenced the kind of 3 data points, which is where we start with when it comes to inclusion and supporting organisations with inclusion. So as sort of has been referenced earlier, having a data driven approach is really, really important. So when it comes to advising organisations, we start with looking at what data is there and what data are we going to look at. So we look at the diversity data of a workforce, so what's the diverse makeup of the employee population, and then we look at policy and processes. So these are really, really important in measuring the systemic inclusion maturity, and I'll talk about our maturity levels just after this slide. So we really look how inclusive is an organisation's policies and processes. And then thirdly, we look at the employee's lived experience. So, it's not enough just to look at the policy and processes and the diversity data. How does it actually feel to be in an organisation? How inclusive do individuals, how included do individuals feel in that organisation? So we really, it's really important to get feedback through focus groups or employee surveys or, other means depending on the organisation. So that's kind of just what I want to start with in terms of the data. And then we have our inclusion maturity model, which sort of underpins our approach to inclusion maturity. So Katie, if you just want to move on to the next slide for me. Great, thank you. So we have an inclusion maturity model underpinning our work. And this is sort of how we establish where an organisation currently is, how inclusive is it? So we look at these factors on the left, so talent attraction, talent development, strategic development, culture, and external impact. So in terms of talent attraction, we look at how does the organisation attract and recruit a diverse talent pool. So as I mentioned the data previously, we might be looking at the policies and processes around recruitment and talent attraction, but then also, you know, how does it feel to be recruited to an organisation? How is that process experienced by individuals? Then talent development. So, you know, for employees, how do they feel in terms of talent development and progression in the organisation? And again, how is talent development and progression set up? What policies, processes are in place? Then strategic development. So here we look at organisations' sort of strategy, so their plan for inclusion. Is there one? You know, how embedded is that? Or if they're very early on in the stage, you know, where do they want to focus their areas? And we'll work with clients to kind of develop that plan. Then culture, so really important, how developed is the organisation's culture? You know, does it enable a consistent feeling of inclusion? And then lastly, but very importantly, external impact. So we've talked a lot about the internal areas, but now externally, how does the organisation impact its customers, its clients, its partners? So across these benchmarking factors, using the data that I've mentioned, we work with clients to establish sort of where are they now? And so as you can see on this graph at the bottom right, we've got a maturity model. So we're having organisations very much early in their maturity, maybe falling into the emergent box. So that's where an organisation setting off on its journey, it's doing what it needs to from a regulatory legal perspective, but very early on in the stages. Then you've got phase 2. So here organisations might be recognising that they need to provide tailored support to underrepresented groups, and they might be doing that sort of on a characteristic focused basis. And then the next one is inclusive. So here we've got, you know, the organisation really is breaking down barriers to be inclusive for all its employees, and it's cognizant of intersectionality and helping employees feel that they can bring their whole self to work. Then at the top end of the scale, this is, you know, really systemic. So organisations falling here, they are reflecting inclusion culture on every touch point with all their stakeholders, suppliers, customers, partners, employees, all really feel that sense of inclusion throughout. So this is the model that we work with when we advise clients. And as I've mentioned, we've been working with Bradford Council and Yorkshire Building Society on their journeys, which has been an absolute pleasure. And if you're joining the workshop this afternoon at 12:15, you'll hear from them a bit more around their reflections, their experiences on their journeys. So I'll leave it there, but as Katie mentioned, if you've got any questions, you know, after this session or after the workshop, you know, do feel free to reach out. And I hope you find this useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna, Katie. A real pleasure to hear about the inclusion maturity model that you've created and your own journey as well. So we're going to break up to the question and answer section now. We've only got a couple of minutes, so I've just been looking through the chat, and we're probably just going to pick 2 questions, if that's all right. Unless anybody's got some questions that they'd like to pop in now, we can have a look at those. So the first question, I'm going to ask if perhaps Shella can answer that question, is from Georgina, and she's asking around whether we would consider having a central resource for the VCS, which could be used as a way to provide advice around evaluation.
Yeah. Thank you, Zara. Thank you, Georgina. A very, very good question, because something which I didn't mention in my presentation. Yes, we are developing a small toolkit, because when we were working with our project providers with different projects from the small projects from the VCS community, we saw how important it is for having a resource for these small projects to make sure they can use the method and show the impact of their work. So we are developing this evaluation toolkit, and we're using our small innovation fund projects as a test bed to see how if our methods are working. with our people from Bradford if our indicators are actually relevant to the local community, and just watch the space. This evaluation toolkit will be launched soon, hopefully in 2021, early in January or February, and hopefully that will give everybody, all the projects, not just integration and cohesion, some aspects in terms of what methods are suitable for evaluation. Thank you.
Thanks, Shella. And then I was thinking about the next question, which I'd like to direct to Barry and Neena. But this has come from Ibrahim from the New Libya Society, sorry, and he's asking really a question around how we can have communication and open channels with the various different ethnic components to make them feel that they're an important part of society. And were their requirements and needs heard?
Barry, can I go first?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of when we did our shared values, we did rely on our voluntary community sector organisations who work with those grassroots organisations who work with people from all walks of lives, and we have our area teams as well, our ward officers and coordinators working with them because they know their communities in their own areas. So we did a massive campaign, internal communications, external communications, speaking to all our networks and contacts to say that we really want to hear the voices of everybody. So our first consultation happened in October on World Values Day in 2019, and our second one happened in January and February. And we've got all the data of all the different ethnic groups, and we've got all that data which we are happy to share with anybody. Like I said in my presentation, we try our best, and we do rely on that collaboration approach and partnership, working with everybody, and that's what we rely on. So that we need that support to reach out to those people, and every single person's voice is important. So yes, we have tried hard. However, there's always ways to improve. Barry, not sure if you want to add anything to that.
Just to say also that we try to reach out, and we're doing that today, to as many local small organisations as possible, which might represent very small minority groups. If you're not already connected in that way, then please do connect with us. We have a professionals newsletter. We also have a citizens newsletter. Both of those are two-way things. A lot of what we put out through there is not just information, it's opportunities to be involved or to apply for funding or to have your say on an important consultation. We want all of these things to be conversations and for everyone to be included. So there are ways in, and we're open to contacts directly from anyone, basically, about hearing people's voices or about ways in which we can improve. But please, as a starting point, please do sign up either as a professional to the Professionals Network or as a citizen to our Bradford For Everyone network, and that's the beginning of getting involved with us. Both of those are available on the website. Sorry.
Thank you, Barry. I think we just have time for one last question. So this has just come through on the chat. Barry, I think this one's for you, really. The question really is about what strategy does Bradford For Everyone have on tackling homophobia with certain cultures? For example, they've provided LGBTQ+ communities may live in fear, being forced into marriages, suicide, etc. So how can we be serious, I guess, around the support that we can provide for LGBTQ+ and community?
I think it's a really good question. That we are, through our innovation fund, we have already funded in the past, for example, Faith in Our Communities, which was a project which linked up LGBT people, some of whom had faith in one faith or another, with local faith or institutions where they could visit each other, learn about each other, understand each other's positions on particular issues, especially LGBTQ+ issues. We've recently just funded through the Participatory Budgeting and Innovation Fund an LGBTQ Free to Be Me community garden in an area of Bradford that has a high Muslim population, for example, and one of the aims of that will be to bring people together around something that's good for the environment, but which will also help people to understand that it is okay to be different, that there are different people within a society, and that is a great thing, not a bad thing, and that there's nothing to fear in that. So we're always looking for, deliberately, opportunities to support changing and addressing these issues. Community conversations that are difficult conversations is also other work that we do. So bringing people together in a safe way to be able to speak openly about their views, their problems, and come to mutual kind of understanding of each other and acceptance is part of our work already, but we are always open and welcoming of new ideas around any issue in the district, and ourselves are reflecting currently on any potential gaps that we have, and already have started to build a big list on those, because everything changes. Integration and migration never stop. COVID comes along, climate emergencies come along, and we have to be adapting and seeing these things before they actually impact, and that's what we try to do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Barry. That's a really good answer. There are quite a lot of questions coming through the chat, but unfortunately, I think we've kind of run out of time. I just wanted to see if I could just ask Anna or Katie just to quickly mention a little bit about the Employers Network workshop that's happening straight after this, which is around delivering diversity and inclusion change, just to give a little bit of a snapshot what that was about. So Katie or Anna, can I pass on to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the Inclusive Employers session this afternoon at 12:15. So this will be the third of a series of 3 workshops we've been delivering with Bradford-based organisations. So yeah, if you can join, that's great. And we'll talk about, we'll have Yorkshire Building Society and Bradford Council talk about some of the work we've done with them and some interactive activities too.
Wonderful, thank you, Anna. So now I'm just going to quickly ask, literally in 30 seconds, if people want to do any final words. So what would you like, one sentence that you'd like people in the audience right now to take away from this session? So can I just start with Neena?
We're so much stronger together. I'm going to bring in my synergy, how, you know, when we all work, when we bring the whole parts together, we're so much more stronger. So my words would be that keep talking to us, keep telling us, keep working with us. You know who we are, where we are. This program is to do with every single person. So we want everybody to come on board with us on this movement. That's me.
Brilliant, Neena. Barry?
Just to say that we've gone a long way in Bradford. We've got lots of great history of working on cohesion and stuff, but we, like has been raised in the question, we need to not shy away from the difficult questions and the difficult topics, but in general we have more in common. People can't be judged by their covers, and this is a great place that we just need to bring pride in each other and pride in the place, and we can do that.
Shalla?
Yes, from me, it's all about data. It's about making sure whatever you do, whatever good work you're doing in terms of delivering your projects and improving outcomes for people in Bradford, but make sure you collect enough evidence which is sufficient to build evidence base of your work to show the impact you are delivering for people. That's hugely important. So yes, put your evaluative thinking hat on all the time when you do something out in the community with people of Bradford. Thank you.
Shalla. Katie?
Yes, gosh, all of those are very good, and racking my brains for something different. But I think this week, particularly because it's National Inclusion Week, it's a really good opportunity, I think, to think personally about, you know, how we can be more inclusive, but also I think, you know, how we in organisations, employers, suppliers, and how we can just make sure that just little bits every day that we're doing just to make people feel more included. I think that's a good starting point without thinking too big and getting overwhelmed by it all.
Great, Katie. Anna, just lastly.
Yeah, I think kind of as you mentioned earlier, Zara, for me, curiosity, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions and stay curious. I think it's really important.
That's a really good one. So again, just before we leave, if you booked onto the Employers Network, please don't forget it's a different Zoom link and you can find that in the chat box, or you should have got a direct email. Thank you for joining us. Please remember you can find out more about our work on www.bradfordforeveryone.co.uk, and you can contact us on hello@bradfordforeveryone.co.uk for further information. Please do subscribe to our newsletter, as Barry said. The link is also on our website, and please do follow us on social media and tell your friends about us. Thank you.